A flight takes off from the Dulles International Airport, Washington, D.C., and this happens a few minutes later.
And we're going to be doing some dumping some fuel here too, so just to give you a heads up on that.
Yes, you heard it right. The pilot said that they are going to dump fuel from the plane. And no, he was not out of his mind. In fact, this is a well-documented procedure in the aviation world called Jettison. And according to Federal Aviation Administration, close to 100 independent jettison incidents were recorded between 2015 and 2020. There are no records for how much fuel was dumped, but we know planes can dump several tons of fuel in few minutes. That's a lot of money. So why do pilots dump fuel and how does it help? To answer that question, let's first understand a few things. The weight of an airplane with a crew on board is called dry operation weight. With the passengers and cargo on board, we have the zero fuel weight. Then the fuel truck connects to the wings and fuels the plane with a calculated amount to reach the destination called trip fuel, plus some taxi fuel for after the landing, and then some alternate and contingency fuel. The plane is now ready to take off and the weight of the plane at this point is called the takeoff weight. In a normal flight, as the plane flies to the destination, it burns down most of the fuel, bringing the total weight below a certain number called maximum landing weight. This is very important. Every plane has certain structural integrity and that decides the maximum landing weight for the plane. If the plane tries to land with the total weight more than that, it can suffer structural damages. Also, it is more difficult to stop heavier plane and this poses a risk of runway overrun. This can lead to very high repair costs at the very least, but more importantly, it can injure the passengers or the crew on board. Now, if everything goes according to the plan and plane flies to the destination, it would have already burnt enough fuel. But what if the plane has to make an emergency landing before schedule? It might not have used up the required amount of fuel, and the total weight might be more than the maximum landing weight. This is where fuel dumping helps. The pilot can flip a switch in the cockpit which activates pumps and valves that release fuel from the nozzles on the wings. The fuel is then pumped out into the atmosphere at a rate of few tons per minute. Now, as it seems, this can be very dangerous if not coordinated well. The fuel can fall on the ground, there can be turbulence to push the dumped fuel back to the plane itself, or another plane can pass through the path of the dumped fuel. Imagine the fuel catching fire in any of these cases. So there are very strict rules set by the Federal Aviation Administration for performing jettison. The plane has to be at a certain height with suitable atmospheric conditions around, and it has to coordinate with the air traffic control so that they can continuously broadcast the message to the other aerial traffic in the area. When performed under the guidelines, the dumped fuel evaporates in the air before hitting the ground. Generally, all the large wide-body planes like Airbus A340 and Boeing B727 are fitted with jettison system. But most smaller planes don't have the system. They have to burn fuel by flying holding patterns or perform an overweight landing in urgent cases. So, only some commercial aircrafts have the ability to dump fuel, while virtually every military aircraft does. Now, military aircraft also use it for emergency situations. Well, mostly because sometimes they do dump and burn to put together a magnificent show of the technology for us civilians.